My friend had gotten me a paint per kit for my birthday that I recently had, so I decided to open it up and try it out and do some paint per, which I haven't done paint per in like forever. So the first paint per style I'm doing is very like a dirty per, I'm pretty sure it's called. So I put white paint, I put pink paint, then I did white. Basically for the first one, I was alternating between color and white paint. I did purple paint, and then I did more white paint. Then for the last color paint, I did some blue paint. With this first piece, I did not add enough paint into the cup, so it did not cover as much of the paper as I would have liked. I was using watercolor paper because I really do like using watercolor paper for acrylic paint. I feel like it works well. When I flipped over the little paint cup, I would tap the little drips of the excess paint, then come on the big gloop, a glob, or whatever you want to call it. I would tap that around the big glob of paint to get as much acrylic out. And I did not scrape out the jars, or should I say cups, because I just didn't feel like scraping out the cup, so I didn't scrape out the cup. Here you can see I'm trying to make the paint move, but I'm also being very cautious because at the beginning I didn't think ahead and think you should have a separate piece of paper to collect the paint in case there's too much paint. I didn't think about that, and I was trying not to get acrylic paint on my desk as much as humanly possible, so I was moving around the paint, trying to get it to look on the page while not getting it on my desk. I was looking at the paint, seeing what I liked, what I didn't like, seeing if I could move the paint around anymore, which I couldn't because, didn't have enough paper. Here you can see I am tearing out a sheet of watercolor paper. I feel like there's not much difference between the Five Below watercolor paper and the Strathmore watercolor paper. With my own art and how I create, it doesn't really make a difference. So I just buy the cheaper stuff because that's what I like. Because I like to save money. Basically with this per painting, I put down more paint that I did last time into a cup, and I moved the colors around so they weren't in the same order. So I did white, blue, white, pink, white, blue, white, pink. And for this piece, I decided to not use the purple paint, but this time I added more paint to the cup, which did help, but at this point I hadn't figured out how much paint I should add, so still a little bit less than I should have used. I was still using the dirty per method, and I was moving the paint around, trying to get it to look good, and at this point I still hadn't put down a second sheet, so I was moving the paint around, and I was trying not to get paint on my desk, and it kind of looked very marbled is what it looks like to me. That's the kind of effect it gave. It was like a marble. See, as you can see here, I realized that I needed a second sheet, so I went and grabbed one so that I could pull some of the paint off where needed. And I no longer have to be worried about getting the acrylic paint on my white desk, which was good. I tapped all the different sides to see if there's any paint that's coming off, and you can tell there was not very much paint that was coming off of the painting. Tappity tap tap, 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 tappity tap tap. I tap the paper onto the other paper to get all the paint off. Then I tap the cup to make sure as much of the paint was out as humanly possible. I decided after I put the paint aside to use my finger and spread the paint that was on the second sheet out to, one, see what color it'd make, and two, because I didn't want to have to wash anything like brushes, so I decided to use my hand so that when I go tap the next piece of paper off on it, it wouldn't be such a mess. At least in my head I was thinking it'd be like not good to tap on a piece of paper that had paint some places, so I just smoothed out all the paint. It ended up making like a pretty periwinkle type of blue color, which is super pretty. And I didn't notice until later when the paint was starting to dry that the acrylic paint I was given happened to be metallic, because when I was working with it, it didn't really look metallic, but once it dried down, it did. And on the bottles, nowhere did it say it was metallic, so that was a very big surprise. For this third painting I did a method where you do one color at a time. So basically you put in like a white paint, then you tip it over, then you put in a blue paint, and you tip it over, you put in a pink paint, and you tip it over. I also made this one much brighter because I used less white in the actual painting. I made sure and like spread out the paint, but also overlap the paint so it would mix and look good together. This method of pearl paint was a lot slower than the other method because you had to flip the cup with each color you added onto the painting, but it did give a very nice, unique pattern. At first, I didn't put a piece of paper underneath it, but then I realized I was going to need a piece of paper underneath it. At this point, I realized I added too much paint to the paper, so the edges were getting all painted up, and a lot of paint was coming off of the page. There for a minute, I thought that I made a mistake because I had paint on my hands, paint on a piece of paper, and nowhere that I could dry, like have the piece of paper drying. I went from the first painting being not enough acrylic paint to the last painting being too much acrylic paint. So yeah, by the end, my hand got all the acrylic paint on it, and I had to give my hand a good scrubbing to get it all off. But it was worth it because the pearl painting session I had was very fun, and they make really good backgrounds for different pieces that I work on in the future. I don't feel like any of them are like good to be by themselves or without additional elements put on top of them, but they make a great start for a background. So if you're looking for some good ways to make some backgrounds, like other paintings, collages, drawings, etc., pearl painting would be a good way to do that. I know that some pearl painting can look really good on their own without additional elements, but I just feel like the ones I was able to make make when I was doing my pub painting session was not the type that you could do just by itself. They were more like background pieces and like starting off points when it came to artwork. I honestly think that this acrylic painting ended up being my favorite out of all of them, just because how vibrant the colors were, how the colors looked, the marbling, how the colors melted together and combined, and all that kind of stuff. It just looked the coolest in my opinion. Probably my least favorite is the first painting I did, since it had the least amount of acrylic paint. The page that I used as like a tipping off page for acrylic paint, that one, I don't really like how it looks, but I'm not really counting that as my least liked page because it was not really meant to be a painting. It was just meant to be, a page that collected acrylic paint from all the paintings. So it still needs more paint added and reworked and stuff to look kind of decent, since it was basically just a scrap piece of paper. Tappity tap tap, 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 tappity tap tap. I was tapping the paint off. Yeah, I got paint on my hands, but that's because I was wiping the acrylic paint off the edges so I could eventually put the paint down without getting paint everywhere. So yeah, a lot of times when I am painting, I end up getting very messy and a lot of paint ends up on my hands, but it's still very fun. I decided to move the page around on this page that I was using just to collect the paint to see what happened. After I realized there was no more paint that could move around the page, I put the piece of paper down and I moved on to the next thing, which was putting the piece of paper / paintings where they could dry and getting the acrylic paint off my hands. I went to the bathroom, I washed my hands off, I put the acrylic paints in different places, let them dry. Now you see a slideshow of how the paintings turned out, which I think it was a good first attempt at paint pulling. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see more videos.